We've got a striga, betrayals, and now we've got a better sense of the timeline. Stay tuned as we discuss The Witcher Season 1, Episode 3.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everybody, I'm Rachel Goodman, and I've got my our panel here today. My panel, yes,
We belong to you.
It feels appropriate considering what we're dealing with this episode anyway.
Right.
But with me, I've got Ben the Witcher.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
And
Hello.
Olivia the Sorceress.
Hello everybody.
And Katie the Cleric.
Hi everyone, welcome back.
Before we dive in, I just want to let you guys know that you should stay tuned until the end because we're going to have a special segment. We're going to do a spotlight on production as well as our news segment. But before we get there, we're going to dive in and talk about what happened in Betrayal Moon, this crazy episode that we had. Overall thoughts?
I mean, I had a problem at the beginning, I have to say, with the time jumps a little bit. So it took me a minute to figure out, okay, where are we right now? I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I was like, okay, why are they dancing out of a sudden and now we are back? So that took me a second. What about you?
I mean, I wasn't so concerned with the time jumps. I just really loved the episode. I just loved that we finally got to see Yennefer like become this strong woman that she was, and that whole transformation scene was probably one of the craziest things I've seen on TV in a long time.
For me, I was like 50-50. The first half, I had a little bit of trouble like keeping my focus on what was happening, and then halfway through, it got a lot better. And then from that point, I was like, okay, this one picked up the pace a little bit. And I remember if you guys remember, I said earlier on the first episode, they didn't like pile on all the adult content. And then halfway through episode 3, it was like, and there it is. Now we have the sex, now we have the nudity that you normally expect in episode 1.
Right.
And then I was like, weirdly enough, that's when I started to get more into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I love/hate.
I did it.
So for me, I think I loved that I understood a little bit better what was going on with the timeline. As a book reader, Katie and I have been reading The Last Wish, and so as from that perspective, I really appreciated that we finally got one of the first stories, and it was some of it was very clear and like true to the book, but some of it kind of changed. I want to mention, since let's talk about Geralt first and everything going on with him and the striga. But Triss Merigold, I was kind of wondering who she was because we did not see her in The Last Wish, the book. And when I Googled her, she was actually, it sounds like she's more of she's from the Witcher computer game. And that she did eventually make her way into the books, but it wasn't until Blood of Elves, and she was only a supporting character, but she's known as being pretty significant in the games.
Okay.
So I just want to start with that. So let's dive in. Let's talk about what we were seeing with the striga and the story. What did you guys think of everything going on in Temeria, especially when we started hearing why this curse existed in the first place?
Before we jump into that, I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Ivan Soto, Stephen Fate, Renji, hi Renji, Grayson, and JJ. Everyone is sharing their thoughts on the episode. I saw it, but then I lost it. Anyway, some people loved the episode. Some people agree with you guys that it was so-so. Ivan said this was one of his least favorite episodes, so there we go. Anyway, so what was your question?
Let's just talk about Temeria and this whole curse. What did you guys think about it when, Geralt stepped into this town, and started kind of hearing all, what was kind of going on? I mean, he picked it up pretty quickly about the two siblings having a child.
Right. I was confused as to why he wanted to be so involved in it, but then when I saw that a Witcher had been killed, that probably definitely piqued his interest, and he, wanted to dive in full speed ahead.
Yeah, totally agree. I basically, for me, what is a little bit confusing, because it took me even a second to understand that these two have a child together.
Yeah.
I didn't get that in the first place. Maybe I should have read the book, by the way. I just realized that already. But it took me a minute.
So one of the things is that Triss, the reason I mentioned her is because she sort of serves as our narrator in a sense, because she's sort of guiding us with everything that we're not figuring out.
Yes.
So, all the in-between. In the book, there was actually a character named Velerad. He was the person doing all of this.
Okay.
And kind of like we see later, he filled us in on all of this, and it was less about Geralt figuring it out. Now, obviously, in the show, he figures it out. He meets Foltest, the king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was worried in that scene that Foltest was actually going to do something to him. What did you think, Katie?
I don't think I got that vibe. I just wasn't quite sure how Geralt was going to deal with it. Because you never really know who you can trust on either end.
Right.
And you don't know who Geralt trusts. You don't know either of those. So it's kind of one of those things where I feel like nobody is as they seem.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what their big part is in the overall whole story. So I think I was just like, does he have good intentions? Does he have bad intentions? And I wasn't sure which one.
I feel like with Geralt though, he's always gonna be on the right side. He's always, I think we've learned now that he's always gonna try at least to do the right thing. And someone mentioned in the chat, there's incest, haha, just like in Game of Thrones. And I know when that happened, when I noticed that, I was like, I thought about Game of Thrones too. I was like, this is so funny. It's like so many parallels already.
And one of the interesting things too is that not only is it, well, it is, yes, it's absolutely, it reminded me of Game of Thrones too with that. But it's interesting because when Geralt goes to the castle where the striga is, where the king's daughter is, even though he won't admit it at first, he goes there and there's this picture of, the king, when he was still a prince with his sister Adda, and that's where they find the letter, and they find out for a fact that, obviously the mother knew about this affair between the siblings, so there's no denying it now. But I found it interesting that they showed their picture, and just to kind of, we're going to talk more about this later, but to touch on the ball, we actually met them as little kids later on in the episode. I thought that was a really amazing callback.
I loved it. I love that because then I realized what's actually happening. So when I saw that scene, that's when I got the connection.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what I did it for people like myself to get the connection at some point. You know what I mean?
Because now we know, like when we talk about Yennefer a little bit later, now we know where that was happening in relation to what Geralt's doing, as we're watching him now, these first couple of episodes. I think for me what was interesting is when they actually showed the striga.
Yes.
Yeah,
I still get goosebumps when I was just thinking about that. Wow,
yeah,
it's a crazy scene.
What did you guys? What did you think? Did you think that Geralt was going to be able to figure this curse out? Did you think he was going to succeed?
I did. Well, when I saw her for the first time, I was like, ugh.
Beautiful, right?
Of course, I was like, I can't believe that's a princess. But okay, you can be a princess. You can be whatever you want to be. No, that was like the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. But then, I was like, it's episode 3. We're gonna. Oh, there it is. That is
on the screen for our watchers.
She is the craziest thing I've ever seen. But yeah, like when he started taking on this beast, I was like, this is The Witcher. Like, this is episode 3. Of course he's gonna succeed. I mean, he might get a little bit hurt, which he did. Yeah. But like, he's always gonna come through, and his intentions are good, and I think he's gonna save her.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with me is that it felt, this scene more so than everything else we've seen so far, this was very true to the book. Nice. He literally did the same kinds of things, including going into the crypt and waiting it out for, the third crow. Yeah. So I knew what to expect. It still felt different, and it was a lot scarier watching it than reading about it. And just the effects and the way that they created this striga, hearing the hissing and the screeching.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I turned the volume down so low. I was like, why? My neighbors are probably like, what is this girl's problem? What is she watching? But yeah, it was creepy.
And I just want to mention too, we also had another character involved, the knight, Istredd. I felt like he got exactly what he deserved too.
Yes,
and I hate to say that about somebody, but I don't even know, like, that's the thing with the show, and the really interesting thing is that they're really good at portraying different points of views and never quite giving us the full truth.
Yes.
It feels very like hyper realistic, and so even when we hear Istredd's story versus everybody else talking about this affair between the siblings, we almost don't know what to believe exactly. But what I'm figuring is that there is some version of all of these truths that's actually the reality. Except we obviously know that the striga is actually the king's daughter.
Yeah, that's what I love about this show, is that they give you little tidbits of everything kind of separately, and then you kind of have to come to your own conclusion, and then it all comes together in the end, and you're like, it makes so much sense. You know, it's like a fun little game of Clue.
Yeah.
I mean, the storytelling is really great, I feel. Also, the characters, as you just mentioned at the beginning, I kind of liked him. I believed him. I did.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, why would you hurt him? He's just doing the right thing here right now. But then I realized, okay, he was just joking or whatever, or just telling the basically a lie here. But what I also wanted to mention is that the fight scenes in general are just amazing.
Yeah.
You know, totally just amazing. Also the twists, you know, at the very beginning when he's trying to capture her with a chain and stuff like that. I was like, okay, he got her right now. That's it. Done. And then all of a sudden she breaks out and just goes crazy. I was like, wow, I wanted to see that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just me, but I also like moments where you feel like, or maybe he's not winning right now.
Yeah.
Because the hero, as we all know from story writing, at some point he's always going to win, right?
Yeah. Right.
But I like the opposite sometimes.
Yeah.
Why not losing at that point? But then out of a sudden in episode 6, 7, then he comes back.
Yeah.
But he came back again.
Well,
I mean,
and
you know.
I think they did a great job too of showing that he is not he's not immortal. Like
That's right.
he can get hurt. He can pass out. He can get so hurt. And we see at the end that she bites him and he faints. And then we don't know what's going to happen to him at first.
And I feel
Yeah.
like if we did see him defeat these things so easily, it wouldn't have these great fight scenes.
Yeah.
If it was
Exactly.
just easy for him, it would be boring to watch,
Exactly.
and it's not. So it gives it this more dimension.
For sure.
And also, I like that it has like this monster of the week vibe a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, because I watch Supernatural. I watch these other monster hunting shows where they have like a monster of the week, and it was nice to get back to seeing him do his thing because we had a break from it in the second episode. So it was nice to see him back at it, kicking ass again in this episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
And what I like about, sorry, I don't want to just
Yeah.
mention something. What I like about his character is that he's not the typical hunter guy who's just going out and killing monsters. I just feel like the more I observe him, I feel like he's very emotional. In
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
I think he's missing something in his life. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to become emotional right now, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, I am a very emotional person, but the thing is, there's something that he's missing, and I think it's love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
He misses someone who loves him.
And they did mention, they seem to be really bringing that up a lot this episode about who do you love, Triss specifically.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was seeing when I was reading about her is that she is in some way a love interest. Now, if they're going to handle that the same way they did in the video games, obviously we don't know. But in the Witcher world, she's, you know, there is a connection, a romantic connection between the two of them. So I'm wondering if they're going to go in that direction, if that's why they were really hinting at it.
Yeah.
Or if they're really just pointing out that he is missing something. In every scene that we see him in, maybe they're pointing it out because of the fact that eventually his destiny in the woods is with Princess Cirilla,
Yeah.
and this idea that he could potentially have a child.
She said Destiny, by the way. Everyone
Yes.
drinks.
I
Oh my
didn't hear
God.
that. Okay.
And this episode in particular drinks to that. They said Destiny quite a bit.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my notes.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, you said
So-
it again.
So
It's gonna be a long day. Okay.
we had something amazing happening while Geralt was fighting the Striga. We were seeing it interlaced with everything happening with Yennefer. So I feel like it's a great time to switch and talk about her.
Yeah.
Before we do, though, we have an announcement for all the fans watching at home.
If you guys are watching and you guys really enjoy watching the AfterBuzz content or listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, do us a favor and like our YouTube videos and subscribe to the YouTube channel because it really helps us bring you more content that you love and that we love providing you, and giving us ratings on Apple Podcasts or or on YouTube.
Yeah.
Both of us, those help us as well. So we just thank you guys so much for continuing to be awesome fans of us. And thank you for making us the ESPN of TV Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it. It's destiny, people.
Destiny.
Do it. Okay.
And to piggyback off her, Captain Marvel Kay Danvers is in our chat, and she, it looks like a she, hello from Sweden. It's 1:20 in the morning, and I'm
my
getting ready to
God.
sleep via listening to you. Love this episode, and Yennefer stole my heart.
That is
Awesome.
dedication.
Thank you
Thank you
so much.
for
I
listening.
love my Swedish people.
There you go.
Shout out to Europe. I love you guys.
So let's talk about Yennefer, because we finally, what I think was amazing is, and we can, we'll talk about the ending where we were kind of seeing her transformation in a second. What I thought was great was that we finally got a better sense of where we were in terms of the timeline between the different characters. There's still a little bit of a question for me when it comes to Cirilla, but in terms of Yennefer, we know that she's...
Look at her.
There she
Look
is.
at that beast.
There she is. So let's just, in general, like, we know that essentially she found out that Istredd was betraying her, which I kind of felt like, as Istredd kind of points out too, it felt like it was a little bit hypocritical for Yennefer to have that reaction, considering what she was doing herself. How did you guys feel?
100%. When he was like, oh, you know, you're doing all this, and she was like, freaking out about it, and I was like, come on, you guys did the exact same thing to each other. Stop it.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because I feel like their love has grown since that initial betrayal, and maybe now they wouldn't necessarily do that to each other. Maybe they would because they're both kind of power hungry, but I don't know. I feel like they did it to each other. It's fair game, you know, like stop complaining about it.
And my thing is too, so I had originally appreciated their relationship the first moment that we met them. Now, including the fact that they, I guess, I assumed they were consummating a marriage. Maybe it was not marriage, but when we saw the sex scene at the beginning.
What in the world? What are people watching actually right now?
So I had to look that up.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was her conjuring up an audience. So I found that out because, you know, so she's doing an illusion. I had to look that up online. So that was not real because I thought this is real weird. Like, why is this happening? It was a part of like her practicing her ability to create illusions.
Now that's a shame.
So I'm going to throw a question out then. Okay. So to me, I was getting this vibe from her as we went through this episode that she had become power hungry. Yeah. And that it was really this idea that she needed to be a certain way to gain power was really all she was about.
Right.
My question to you guys is, why do you think she conjured up people to watch her? Like, what do you think was going on there?
I have no idea. In the chat, let us know. Why do you think she conjured up some people? Because I feel like that's super weird.
It is really weird, even for a power-hungry
Or
person.
it could be she's, you know, that's such an uncomfortable and private moment that she's trying to give herself all the most uncomfortable things to kind of get over them. And in a way, making her stronger so that if something like that were to happen again, or like something uncomfortable like that, in that realm of uncomfortableness were to happen, maybe she would not care.
Also, it's got to be hard to be doing that while, you know, having sex.
Yeah.
I mean, that can't be something your mind's focused on.
Yeah.
People do that.
I've
never seen it, but heard about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to say something about that. But sorry, guys. Just a side joke. No one got it. It's okay. Anyway, but you just said it was an illusion, and she came up with that illusion. So I feel like if she came up with that, it's not really uncomfortable for her, but for him, maybe. Because she wants to maybe show him, hey, I have even more power over you. I don't really feel uncomfortable about that.
Yeah.
Why do you?
Well,
That's
JJ
fine.
and Ivan Soto in the chat said that Istredd said that it was an illusion as well in the show, and JJ said that he says it. So
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's definitely, I mean, the only thing I can think is that it's this idea that she, you know, going along with this idea that she wants to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
That if she can't actually have it in reality, she's going to invent it.
Yeah.
And, you know, what a better moment for her than when she's having
Yeah.
sex with somebody.
That's a good point.
A
I can see
better,
that.
a better moment. Renji says, in a way, it was probably a self-pleasure for her having an audience.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes
Like
sense.
you said.
And they always try to like practice their skills with each other too. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably also that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the other thing to kind of, you know, as an aside here, it's related, but we had that whole council meeting. I found that very helpful in terms of understanding the world, because one of the things that they were talking about was how Queen Calanthe was she wasn't even queen yet. Her father was still alive when this council meeting was happening. So that's something I was like, okay, that places us better
Back.
in the time.
Yeah.
So we understood that. And we got more of this political understanding of what was going on, and that the Sintras did not want to be part of this council. And so we're starting to see, and like we had mentioning of, you know, they didn't want any certain like groups did not want anyone with any sort of elf blood either. And so we're getting more of this, like the political nature of the world and how Sintra fits into this.
Yeah.
Because I'm really getting the sense that they're going to play this huge role in what happens. And I you know, the more we learn about the queen too, Queen Calanthe, the more we start to feel like, okay, it feels off here too.
Right.
And with Sintra in general.
Feels like real life. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm always thinking about, wow, that's actually happening maybe right now too, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah, it's like very political and like how Yennefer wanted to be, you know, definitely not with the Nilfgaard, you know, not the Nilfgaard mage, or and you know, it's just like it feels like this is it's in the past, but it's happening today too, you know.
Yeah, and the big thing was that she wanted to go with the king in Aedirn, and that was what was taken from her at this council meeting, and when she learned of the betrayal. And I feel like Yennefer, it wasn't even so much that Istredd had betrayed her. It was more that his betrayal cost her, potentially cost her, this, you know, movement upward and her, you know, wanting this rise of power. And so that's what it was. And when he proposed to her, hey, you know, come with me, we'll get to travel together. It was, like she said, it was basically suicide to her because she did not want to just be somebody's partner. She wanted to be somebody special and in the light.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
and it was special to her probably too because she was from that area, you know. That's like, even though she is part elf, like that was her king when, you know, growing up or whatever. So she has a special connection to it, and he has a special connection to her, obviously.
Yeah, and so that kind of leads us to our next part. So we see that Istredd's done, like, you know, well, they're done.
Yeah.
And I did appreciate the Yennefer stood up for herself, but the hypocrisy to me, I felt bad for him. But at the same time, we're getting this whole idea that it's not just, like, we saw that the striga transform back into a human being.
Yep.
As we're seeing that, we're also seeing Yennefer's painful transformation at the cost of being able to bear children. So, Katie, what did you think of all of that?
I'm going to make a comparison to like a werewolf transformation. I love a good werewolf transformation that's done on screen.
Yeah.
So I felt that part of me was very pleased with the transformation, as painful as it was to watch. Like they did a very good job at making you not want to watch, but you can't look away.
Yeah.
You know, like that happy medium where you're like, nope, I have to watch this.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize until you just mentioned that it was at the same time that they dealt with it. So like that's a great like symmetry there where they're saying, okay, this parallel is connecting to this parallel.
Yeah.
And so that's good. But yeah, like that's a big choice. And she's younger at this point where she's not going to realize if that's going to bother her later. You know, you're making this choice like, yeah, sure, it's fine. I don't need to have kids. Like, how do we know that's not going to bother her later?
Yeah, because we don't, you know, I think last time we were talking about how young she was. How do you know at that age whether you want to be a mother?
Sacrifice being a mother,
Yeah, exactly.
And it was so crazy because she was so young, going through such gnarly pain. Like, that, I don't know how she, like, that whole scene gave me the creeps the whole time. Like, that was really crazy. Anyway, Spiro, hi guys, all the way from Lebanon.
Ooh, welcome.
Watch out.
Yeah.
So international.
I know.
Love it.
And then Grayson says Jennifer's quest for power is to fill her need to feel important and maybe even love.
Yeah,
So maybe that's
definitely.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
like a motivating factor for her. But
And
it
then
was crazy.
she had her top of the stairs moment, you know, that they always do in these transformation scenes where they get their entrance into society and you're just like, oh, girl, dang, all right, you do you. You get yours, you know.
And I was like, wow, now I would date you. You know, I was like, sorry, just saying. I mean, she was still beautiful before, but I was like, sorry, it's all good. You know, I just had to say that it was in me. But anyway, don't forget about that. But I just wanted to say also the makeup and how they made her look at the very beginning. I was like, what is that? That was my first thought I had. You know?
We were talking about this before the show. I had to actually double check and make sure it was the same actress.
Exactly.
That's how
Me
different
too.
she looked.
Exactly.
So they went like the way that they did her makeup, and we're going to talk more about that later. But just the way that they dressed her and how she looked,
like-
it was a different person. But here's the other thing. The way that it was acted, you know, like typically we see somebody walk in and like, I'm thinking of She's All That, where she walks in after she gets the makeover and she looks uncomfortable. Well, it was the same kind of situation. Yennefer looked very uncomfortable after this transformation. And like, it's like they always say, no matter how much you change on the outside, you're still the same on the inside.
Yeah.
And so with her, I'm curious how this transformation is really going to affect her, because as much as, you know, she's now, you know, looks the way that the world looks in a way that the world would find her appealing. I think that she'll always harbor that resentment of how people treated her before.
Yeah.
And I could see her, like, I almost feel like she might be a tragic hero in the sense that she'll never be able to get over that, and it will actually lead to more anger and hate and just her making some choices that might not be the most, the kindest.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But it can also, like, in a way, keep you grounded. That's what I'm always saying. So if you, like, even in real life, if you have somebody, for example, who's changing the outlook, but they know where they were coming from, they hopefully keep that. And I know a couple of people, they had a transformation themselves, you know, whatever it is, losing weight or whatever they did, and they still like the same person because they know how it was before for them. And I actually kind of appreciate that, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's actually a good thing.
And there's like a mental state that you
sure.
can't change no matter, you know, what changes on the outside.
Exactly.
You're always going to be the same.
For sure.
You know, obviously we're always growing, but I just feel like this sudden change for her is going to have heavy implications. So obviously at the end when she steps in, the king does notice her. He pushes away, you know, he pushes everybody else away and just goes off. And like Tisaya didn't look like she was having it.
No.
And it almost made me wonder if she had been someone who had undergone a transformation too, physically.
Yeah, I feel like maybe they had like similar upbringings or like, you know, similar paths. It's hard to talk about because I've seen episodes. But yes, she, maybe it was also like a little bit of, you know, I maybe proud of her in a way of like, I'm upset that she did this, but like, dang, good for you, girl. And I wanted to shout out that actress. Her name is Anya, who plays Yennefer, and she's a 23-year-old actress, and who, she kills it. Like, can you imagine at 23 just being like, this is me, and like going for it with this role is crazy to me. So Anya. Also, Destiny.
Oh, yeah. By the way, is she really British or is she American doing a British accent? I'm curious now.
Well, let me tell you.
Yeah. So
anyway,
let's while we're looking that up,
she's British. Nailed it. Wow, my phone's fast.
Awesome. Let's talk about, we did get a little bit of a scene with Princess Cirilla.
Yeah.
It was not that long, but I think it's big enough where we should talk about it. We kind of see her heading toward this forest, looking entranced.
Yes.
And she can't even hear Dara. That's how bad it is.
Yes.
So I'm just getting weird feelings about this.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that's all we got with her. But I do think that it was, you know, worth mentioning that she's the one I'm not worried about her because I know she can, you know, she can handle herself, but she's so young.
So young.
Yeah, that's the problem. And that we don't know how, because we've seen that, you know, Geralt and Yennefer, they're all in a past somewhere, and she's in a future that we don't know where these other characters are yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone's going to be able to team up with her at this point, or if destiny will be fulfilled.
But I also wanted to say something about actress or acting in general from an acting perspective, talking about young actresses. I feel like she also does an amazing job.
Yeah.
Oh my God. When you see the emotional scenes where she looks away for a minute and for a second looks back, the timing is just on point.
Yeah, her name is Freya, and she is 18 years old, and she is also British.
Wow.
I was like, but girl, you are amazing. Seriously, she's really good.
Yeah.
She's going to go far in the industry.
I mean, everyone in this show is just so phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, you know, especially Henry Cavill, who's like...
Beautiful.
Just this, no. He's beautiful, am I right? But not only is he beautiful, but he's like such a fanboy of this whole thing and like this whole world, and he's thrown himself into it, and then all these other actors are just like really have thrown themselves into this, and it's so nice to see, because sometimes you don't see that in shows. You're like, oh, they're just acting, going through the motions, but they just kill it.
And there's heart. It gives it heart.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
So let's jump into our production spotlight, since we're talking about production. And we're actually going to discuss some makeup.
Yeah. So really quickly, there is, oh my gosh, Geralt and Olivia. Look at his face. So basically, obviously, that's not what Henry Cavill looks like. I asked, you know, we found out that his contacts, or his eyes were contacts, not CGI. And sometimes he used full eye contacts. So at one point, he said that his eyes would hurt so bad, and he almost went blind from wearing them.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So like, because it was just constant wearing contacts, and then Also, when he drinks his potion and his whole eye goes black, that's another type of contact that just like, he said it would hurt so bad, but it was so worth it. And also, let's talk about his wig. So one of the producers did an interview with Cinema Blend, and she says, "We tried several versions of the white wig. It glowed on screen, looking almost grandma blue under the lights. It was an abomination and laughable. We added more dirt and some low lights, and it took us months to get it into a place where we were happy with it. It definitely is more silver now, but we didn't want to give up calling him the White Wolf, which makes more sense as a nickname when we meet future Witchers and see that none of their hair was impacted by the trials." So apparently the wig, it was a very, very serious and important part of this whole show, obviously, because it's like who he is as a person. So they put a lot of work into it.
Took them months.
Months, yeah.
That's wow.
That's
So
crazy.
shout out to the makeup and
Oh
hair
my
and makeup
God.
team.
Yeah. So let's jump to our news, which is very related to.
Let's do it.
AfterBuzz TV News.
So our news flows back into the whole concept of makeup. Anya, forgot her last name, but she also did an interview with Cinema Blend where she's talking about the original version of Yennefer. And my first thought was, is this the way the actor is manipulating her body, or was she using a prosthetic? She did, in fact, have a prosthetic, and she said the prosthetic, or the hunchback, made me look at the floor, and because I was looking at the floor, and I was a lot more self-conscious, and I felt inferior, and I was scared to use my voice. And that helped the way I used my voice, the way I responded to people. So yeah, she did have a prosthetic. And then in another article with The Wrap, she said, "I'm in my 20s, and I play a 14-year-old girl all the way up to someone in her 70s and 80s post-transformation. So before, this is like later on, but so before I had the help of a back prosthetic and I had the jaw misalignment. I had a mouth guard in my mouth. All those things helped me and my movement. I was looking at the floor a lot, and I had a smaller voice when I spoke, and I didn't look anyone in the eye. And then after the transformation, I had the help of the costumes and a corset, and so I felt a lot stronger.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was, first of all, a very well worded interview. Like, you can tell that she's good with her words, because that's a very good interview.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's a picture that we put on the screen of kind of like a before and after.
Yeah.
So so she did use something in her mouth to get which obviously we think we all assumed that.
Yeah, of course.
Because you can't manipulate your mouth really that way constantly while you're talking. So yeah, that was a mouth guard, and then she had a prosthetic on her back. So I was like, that's awesome to know. At first, because I was like, this could be an acting thing where she's like, okay, I'm just gonna shift my body, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting. And I kind of assume too that when you're wearing that kind of prosthetic, you just will walk differently.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
it's going to weigh you down differently and
Yes, of
feel
course.
differently. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
That's awesome.
I think on that note, it's a great place to wrap up. So Katie, where can everybody find you?
you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at KT_Christine. I'm pretty active on Twitter. And you guys, if you have any questions or comments, please send them to me on Twitter.
And Olivia?
I'm Olivia Debortoli at Olivia Debortoli on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also in the comments in the YouTube, so I will be there. And I'm also on the Arrow After Show. We only have 2 episodes left.
And Ben.
And yeah, my name is Benjamin Schnau, like the dog, right? You know what I'm talking about. And you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. I always have to say that to American people sometimes, Schnau, right? And I also do The World According to Jeff Goldblum today at 6 p.m., guys. Oh,
Awesome.
yeah.
And I'm Rachel Goodman. You can find me on Twitter at Rach Goodman or on Instagram on my author account at Rachel Radner Author. I am on the Ray Donovan AfterBuzz panel, as well as The Young and the Restless, which is on Sundays. And I'm also joining Doctor Who next week, too.
Wow.
So until then, we will see you shortly when we cover the next episode.
Stay here. We're going to be right back.
Our
Bye,
founder,
everybody.
Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.